are Mexico's and your UN priorities as permanent representative?
I would say that so far this year, our priorities would be, on the one hand, a new proposal for the General Assembly to approve concerning human rights of migrants. This summer, maybe in July or August, I hope we can present a new resolution to be approved by the General Assembly that would make it mandatory to observe the human rights of migrants independently of their legal condition. You see, that whether they are documented workers or undocumented workers, they are above all human beings, and we believe very deeply that the basic human rights have to be respected by all nations. Another priority for me is to try and revive a proposal that the President of Mexico made that has to do with reducing inequality and poverty around the world. And the idea was that the main corporations and the main banks in the world would have a certain percentage of their annual profits devoted to a fund, to an international fund run by the United Nations that would be dispersed to the poorest areas in the world. This would be in response to something that we believe is one of the major problems in the planet, really, which is the concentration of power and less than 1% of the population, of the world population.
Mexico is a founding member of the United Nations. It was a member of the UN Security Council very recently in 2021, 2022, 4 times. What is Mexico's perspective when it comes to reforming the UNSC as it's been discussed for many years now?
Well, in fact, during the last few years, Mexico, together with France, presented a proposal for changing the dynamics, let's say, of the Security Council. We deeply believe that as long as only 5 nations of the world have the veto power and can therefore stop any action by the United Nations around the world, even with the veto of one single nation, of one of 5 permanent members of the Security Council, we think that that is contrary to the whole idea of the United Nations as an effective international organization.
You can't have a conversation about Mexico without discussing the issue of migration. What are UN agencies doing to help the humanitarian issues around migration?
Well, we've been working for many years, but especially in the last 5 years or so, in improving the conditions of those people who have to wait on the Mexican side. We have been trying to improve the spaces where these people are held in Mexico before they enter the United States, and also the transportation from Central America, from Guatemala, all the way through Mexico and into the United States. It's a long, long trip that they have to undertake, sometimes by train, sometimes walking, in terrible circumstances. Also, we've been offering job possibilities for working in Mexico, which many people have actually taken as an option.
What are your concerns about artificial intelligence?
I happen to believe that it is one of the central issues that the world faces. On the one hand, as we all know, it offers almost unlimited possibilities, that's the positive side of it. But also, artificial intelligence is a very, very, unless it is well regulated, it would be a great threat to humanity in the sense that, again, as it is in public opinion now that they could eventually gain control of crucial decisions from humankind. So it's a major, major issue. I often say that together with climate change and the concentration of wealth in less than 1% of the world population, I would call those three the deepest, the gravest problems that humankind faces.
Ambassador, history was made in Mexico with voters electing the country's first female president, Claudia Sheinbaum. I want to get your reaction to that significant milestone.
Well, I will start by saying that as a diplomat, I am very conscious of the fact that I represent here at the United Nations the whole of Mexico, the Mexican state, not only the government, and therefore I shouldn't really talk too much about internal politics. But at the same time, I cannot forget that I'm a founder member of the party that won. For many reasons, this was a very historical and significant election. First of all, it will be the first time in our history that we have a woman president. I believe we're in the midst of a peaceful revolution in Mexico, and we have been in such situations since 2018.
She's an accomplished woman. She's also a climate scientist.
Absolutely.
How will that background perhaps help Mexico in dealing with climate change? And with that being such an issue at the UN as well?
Sure. I think that will be at the center of her concerns, the whole fight against climate change. Climate change is already a reality in today's world. It affects the entire planet. But to the degree that it is possible to fight it, still, climate change, it will be done, and it will be one of the priorities for the new president of Mexico, in my view.
Ambassador Vasconcelos, thank you so much for joining us.
On the contrary, thank you so much for your visit. Thank you.